Another sustained mass Russian air attack on Ukraine. Kyiv under an air raid alert stretching from the pre-dawn hours through the morning. In total, more than 500 drones and 40 missiles launched, about 10% of them getting through Ukraine's air defences. In freezing temperatures today, more Ukrainians forced onto the streets, at once grateful for narrow escapes and shaken by fresh horrors.
There
was an explosion at the power plant and then a stronger explosion. The windows started shaking and there was a hit on our house. We started evacuating. I can't believe that the whole world is seeing this and can't stop it. I heard a man burning and his scream is still in my ears.
2 people killed and nearly 50 injured in the strikes, according to Ukrainian officials. Russia said it was targeting energy infrastructure and industry tied to Ukraine's military. Ukraine's government said a third of Kyiv had been left without power.
The Russian Federation is sending a message that is raising the stakes in this war, that it does not want to end this war, that it wants to engulf us in chaos. Not only energy related, it wants to intimidate us.
This then the backdrop to President Zelensky's latest mission to the United States and its mercurial president. He meets Donald Trump tomorrow at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. The US now proposing a free economic zone in areas that Russia had wanted Ukraine to cede. Zelensky's latest gambit, a 60-day ceasefire to put such a plan to a referendum. But from his flight today, he told reporters the key issue remained long-term US security guarantees. President Trump yesterday telling the Politico news site that he expected a good meeting, but that Zelensky didn't have anything until he, Trump, approved it. Approval of any deal, of course, also needed from Vladimir Putin. He reportedly told Russian business leaders this week that he was open to land swaps, but wanted the whole of the Donbass region of eastern Ukraine for Russia. Hard to mesh that with the American and Ukrainian talk of demilitarized free economic zones there. Hard too for Ukrainians to take seriously Russian talk of deals as Russian missiles and drones bring death and deprivation through the Christmas period. And as for a referendum on a deal, should such a prospect materialize, Ukraine's parliament noting that a third of the country's polling stations have now been destroyed.
Well, earlier I spoke to Yuri Sak, former advisor to the Ukrainian defense minister. I began by asking him for his reaction to the heavy bombardment of Kyiv.
By now, the attack has lasted, one of the longest ones actually, because it's lasted now for more than 17 hours on end. So that means that people have to stay in shelters. There have been multiple hits. Russians have launched more than 500 drones and more than 40 ballistic and cruise missiles. So for the last 17 plus hours, it's been a nightmare. It's been hell.
In Kyiv, I just wonder what it does to the psyche of people when the capital is hit. Does it feel different? Does it feel more significant? Does it hurt more?
Those who are in Kyiv, they are used to it by now. Those who are away from Kyiv in other parts of Ukraine, those people are more sort of anxious and nervous and frightened because they just don't see the extent of this evil, and the fear exaggerates the whole experience very much. So actually, what I'm trying to say is that when the attack is on Kyiv, it is the whole of Ukraine which is petrified. And these days, the moment the attack begins, we're suffering blackouts anyway, but every another attack on our energy infrastructure results in more blackouts. People, it's below zero temperatures now, and it's pretty bad.
What do you think the Russian intent is at the moment? We know that there are going to be the peace talks soon, the 20-point plan, but I just wonder what you think of what Russian strategy is right now.
I wouldn't want to speculate, but on the one, I think there's a couple of sort of strategic objectives that they're pursuing. So, of course, it's very much connected to the peace talks. As you know, our president is now on his way to the US, and tomorrow he'll be meeting Donald Trump, and hopefully it will be a productive one of the final rounds of the negotiations. So Russians want to kind of beef up their negotiating position on the one hand. On the other hand, I am assuming that Russians are envisaging at some point there will be some form of a referendum in Ukraine asking people whether people of Ukraine want to sign up on the dotted line and, sign these peace agreements, which Russia thinks will be on their terms. So I think these attacks are designed to break the will of the people and make what Russians think they will achieve is they will make Ukrainian people more agreeable and more willing to sign an unfair and unjust peace accord, which is not possible. It's not going to happen.
So where is the psyche of Ukrainian people at the moment? We've had, nearly 4 years of this war. People are tired, they're fed up, they are freezing and wanting some sort of peace. What would peace look like and what would be sellable to the Ukrainian people?
We have paid such a huge, enormous price by now, and like you rightly said, it's been almost 4 years now. But Ukrainian people, I think emotion number one, the priority emotion is anger, like really big anger against Russia, because the amount of suffering that's been inflicted on our country is gigantic. So people will not be willing to just sell out, to concede. And, the red lines about which our president speaks, these are actually the red lines that Ukrainian people feel very much as well.
So those red lines, you're talking about territory, aren't you? You're talking about if, for example, the battle lines are frozen where they're at the moment, would that be palatable? But would that be a way forward to end this war?
We have said, okay, we're not going to go for all of our territory at this stage. And if the hostilities are stopped along the existing front lines, this will be something we can work with, right? The red line is, and our president just repeated it yesterday, that we will never recognize the legal title of Russia to the illegally annexed territories. So that is something that compromises need to be found.
If the battle lines are frozen in that way, how confident are you that you'll have the security guarantees that Russia won't be able to go a step further and go into more territory?
Aisha, this is one of the most important points that our president will be raising tomorrow with Donald Trump when they meet, because indeed, this paper will be not worth the ink it's written. The paper it's written on if there are no meaningful security guarantees. Ukraine has in the past already had the so-called Budapest Memorandum. When we gave up our nuclear weapons, and US, UK, and Russia, they've all given us assurances of guarantees that Ukraine will never be violated and will never be touched. That hasn't worked out. So we need legally binding guarantees from our partners, from the US, from the European countries. And, this is the most important point at this stage of the peace talks.
Do you trust the president, Donald Trump, that he'll give that?
Well, I trust, as we say in Ukraine, I trust the armed forces of Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. And, we are a very strong negotiating party. So regardless of who has what in mind, we have our army to fall back on. And, and I think our allies know this as well.
Yuri Sak, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aisha.